me get settled. How are we all doing? Sorry, I was just running around. I'm a bit out of breath because the paint just exploded all up the chair, which is white. Really helpful. Okay, now here's the favourite time of the week. If you have got yourself a drink, don't forget you also need, right, can I remember it all? You need biscuits, you need pizza, you need garlic bread and roasts and massive sandwiches, but I think this week we should definitely have a massive bowl of ice cream. Jack and Daisy, if you are watching, I know there is ice cream in your freezer, so go and ask Mum and Dad, because it is super tasty. Okay, we are going to read from 1 Samuel. So if you've got your Bible or you want to have a little read of it later, go and see if you can find that. Okay, 1 Samuel chapter 16. The Lord was sorry he had made Saul the king of Israel. One day he said, Samuel, I've rejected Saul, and I refuse to let him be king any longer. Stop feeling sad about him, put some olive oil in a small container, and go and visit a man named Jesse, who lives in Bethlehem. I've chosen one of his sons to be my king. Samuel answered, If I do that, Saul will find out and have me killed. Take a calf with you, the Lord replied. Tell everyone that you've come to offer it as a sacrifice to me. Then invite Jesse to the sacrifice. When I show you which one of his sons I have chosen, pour the olive oil on his head. Samuel did what the Lord told him and went to Bethlehem. The town leaders went to meet him, but they were terribly afraid and asked, Is this a friendly visit? Yes, it is, Samuel answered. I've come to offer a sacrifice to the Lord. Get yourselves ready to take part in the sacrifice and come with me. Samuel also invited Jesse and his sons to come to the sacrifice too, and he got them ready to take part. When Jesse and his sons arrived, Samuel noticed Jesse's eldest son, Eliab. He must be the one the Lord has chosen, Samuel said to himself. But the Lord told Samuel, I don't think so. This isn't the one. Just because he's tall and handsome, he isn't the one I have chosen. People judge others by what they look like, but I judge people by what is in their hearts. Jesse told his son to go over to Samuel, but Samuel said, No, the Lord hasn't chosen the second son either. Next, Jesse sent his next son and the next one, but the Lord hadn't chosen them too. Jesse sent all of his 7 sons over to Samuel, but finally Samuel said, Jesse, the Lord hasn't chosen any of these young men. Do you have any more sons? Yes, Jesse answered. My youngest son is David, and he is taking care of my sheep. Send for him, Samuel said. We won't start the ceremony until he gets here. Jesse sent for David. He was healthy, good-looking, with a sparkle in his eye. As soon as David came, the Lord told Samuel, He's the one. Get up and pour the olive oil on his head. Samuel poured the oil onto David's head while his brothers watched. At that moment, the Spirit of the Lord took control of David and stayed with him from then on in. Samuel returned home. What's happening next? I think Samuel's coming to give us the lesson, is he not?
I am.
He is coming. Here he comes.
Here I come.
Samuel, there was a Samuel in the story today.
I know, it's really good, wasn't it? I did always like Samuel's stories when I was in the I might sit where you are, actually.
Okay.
If that's okay.
That's
so I'm going
fine.
to come to that camera to be a bit closer. Also, I wanted to check out the eggs in the bath. They look really cool. Okay.
That's fine.
Good story, huh? Not too long, but some cool stuff happened. So there's a guy called Saul who's the king of Israel. He was chosen by the people. God was not wanting there to be for a king of Israel just yet, but the people were like, we need a king. That's what other places are doing. So that's what we're going to do. But God had rejected Saul as king. That's not what God's plan was. And he told Samuel to stop being upset about it. Samuel was a prophet. He listened to God and said what God told him to say, and he did what God told him to do. So he told him to go to Bethlehem. We know that town, don't we? Because we usually hear about it around Christmas time, because that's where Jesus is born. And Jesse happens to be in Jesus' family. Through those descendants, that's why the link is Bethlehem, Because down the years, there's Joseph, who's from Bethlehem, who's Jesus' daddy on earth. But I am getting ahead of myself. We're going to stay in the story. The point of the story is God has a purpose for me, and he has a purpose for you. So it's like a plan. God has things for you to do in your life when you're a bit older, right now, and then when you're even older than what you'd be when you're older. That's what he has. He has loads of things to do. He has things for me to do now. And so we can look at David, who was Jesse's youngest son. He was out tending sheep. So we can think, well, God's purpose for him was something so much greater and so much bigger than what any of them had thought. They weren't expecting Samuel to come and do this sacrifice and anointing of all the sons, all but one son, it was just David, to do that. The purpose that Jesse had for his son on that day, for that time, was to tend the sheep, to look after the sheep. He was being a shepherd. He would have gone out and he would have watched the sheep and he would have protected them, and he did a good job protecting them. He managed to take out a lion and a bear while he's protecting those sheep as he got older, which is brilliant. But God had a purpose for him. Now, I've got some Lego in front of me because I wanted to help us understand that. Here's a load of Lego bricks. Here they are. They sit on my desk. So when I'm thinking and stuff, sometimes I just pick and try and build things. But I'm not the most creative at building with the Lego on my own. I usually do the sets where I've got the instructions. But I still have a purpose for these Lego pieces to put them together how I'm wanting to put them together so that they may look and do what I'm wanting them to do. I have a purpose for them. Making a little tower like this with that cool little box piece, and then we'll finish it off with my little knight on top, and boom, it's a little statue plinthy thingy bobby doodah. But if I gave these to Joel, who's doing the tech today, he might have another purpose for them. He might build something else. He might do something else with them and think, that's the best thing for them, these Lego bricks. I'm going to do those. And I might give them to you when we're all back together, and you might build something else with those. And when I was growing up, I wanted to be a policeman. I wanted to join the police force. I wanted to catch robbers and do all those things. I wanted to do that up until about 2021, so about 6-7 years ago. That's what I was wanting to do. That was my plan, my purpose for myself, was I want to go and do that because I love to help people and be around people, and the police was something that I thought I could do. But God helped me see that he had something else for me to do. He began to talk to me about maybe studying theology and other things, which is looking at the Bible and learning about what God says in there, so I can help teach you. His purpose for me right now is to be the kids pastor at BCC, to love you, to have fun with you, to make paint mess everywhere that Emma is now cleaning up of the carpet as I speak. But what I want you to understand today, kids, is even right now, right this moment, God looks at you and he looks at your heart. Remember that verse that says that when God said to Samuel, I don't look at the physical appearance, I look at your heart. He looks at your heart. He knows what you're wanting to do. He knows your heart, who you are. He truly, truly does, and he loves that. He has a purpose and a plan for you right now. Some of you have some really great talents. All of you have some really great talents. It might be that you're brilliant at Lego and creating and building things. It might be that you love to sing and you're able to play an instrument. It might be that you're able to write things down and share those. It might be that you're really good with tech things, like Joel. He's doing a brilliant job. There's gifts and talents that God will want you to use to help us share Jesus with others. But he has a purpose and a plan for your life. But it's okay if you're not sure what that is right now. You can ask your adults, what do you think God's purpose for you is? And they might be able to talk to you and tell you that it's changed. God's had loads of different things. When they were this age, God had them doing this. When they were this age, God had them doing something else. So when we finish today, why don't you have a little task this week? Ask some adults that you know and see if you can find out what their purpose was that God had for them. And maybe they did a purpose that they set for themselves and then realized that God's purpose was better, because that would be true. So we can look at David, this small boy who looked after sheep with a sparkle in his eye. He's described as having a heart after God's own heart. And he was king of Israel. He did some wonderful things for God. But he also did a few things that weren't so great as well. But that's just so true of us. I still be naughty sometimes, because I've actually made a little bit of a mess of the carpet up here, which is a little bit naughty. But God has a purpose and a plan, and it's the best possible one. So you can ask your adults, but you can also, when you pray to God, you can ask him, hey God, do you want to share with me something of what your purpose for me is? What's the plan? What can I be doing for you? Because I love you and I like having a relationship with you. And then we can begin to learn and listen like we have done. When we were allowed to be together, we did those prayer mornings, didn't we, where we tried to listen to God and learn what his voice sounded like to us. So God has a purpose for me. That's the point this week. And the shrimps, why was it shrimps? Because there's so many of them in the sea. They make these wonderful, wonderful clouds. But God knows them all individually, and they all had a role to play in creating a super great cloud. They weren't just bunged together. When it's just us, the kids team, all doing things, we're not just bunged together. God has a purpose and a plan for each one of us that you see on Sundays. So, ask those adults, what plans and purposes has God got for them and had for them? And ask God, maybe with your adults, and see what he might have for you to do right now. Because God can use you right now. It doesn't matter that you're feeling little or young or not old enough yet. God has a plan and a purpose for you. And he has one for me. And right now, it's loving you and teaching you and being silly and having fun with all of you. That's his purpose for me, and I love it. Are you coming back?